Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport podcast. I'm your host DD, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we'll be talking about the Formula E World Championship that just came to an end. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, read our opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Um, we started the season by saying that we all wanted Stoffel Vandoorne to win, and finally, it has come true. It did go down to the wire, but with the end of Gen 2 era, I think it was the most fitting ends in a way you could ask for. Stoffel is loved by everyone, and finally, it's almost like a fans champion, if you want to say. I don't think anyone's won the fan boost more than Stoffel Vandoorne, which goes to show the love that people have for Stoffel Vandoorne in Formula E. But what were your thoughts of the last weekend? In Seoul, there was a lot going on in Korea before the drivers got out there. There was flooding, and then it went down to the wire, pretty much to the wire. I mean, Mitch Evans took it to the last race in the best way he could possibly. And then, Stoffel Vandoorne obviously prevailed with a surgical finish to his season, to put it that way. Mitch Evans had, I think, 4 wins across the season, whereas Stoffel Vandoorne, just with a solitary win, took the crown in this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was when Mitch Evans won that penultimate race on Saturday. I was very happy. Obviously, the support for Stoffel was always there, but to see a championship go down to the wire and to see a driver like Mitch Evans, who has been the star of the season, to take it one notch further and take it to the absolute end was incredible. And I mean, he didn't have anything to lose, right? All he had to do was win, and he did it. And
that start
was absolutely
insane.
sensational. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, Stoffel Vandoorne champion finally on the second, after a disastrous 2021, and to be a champion with only one win. We were discussing it, right? We were discussing it that what is the least number of wins you can to be a champion. And I think this is the third instance in major motorsport championships where a driver has just one race and become world champion. So I think first was Mike Hawthorne in Formula 1, and the next, when he won the championship, the next was, I think, Keke Rosberg. And and in as a world champion, sorry, there may be other, in major championships, but a world champion, Stoffel was the third one to win a world championship with just one race win to his name. But what a season it has been. And bar, some misfortune and typical Formula E stuff, it was absolute fighting till the very end.
That's an interesting fact you put out there. I think we were all rooting for Jeff to win this championship, having not won a race, a few weekends ago. And I wonder what that fact would have brought about in terms of stats. But yeah, couldn't have asked for more. And once again, Mercedes 2-2.
Oh yeah.
And that is another stat for the Mercedes fans out there. Sadly, they will be leaving the sport, or they have left the sport in a way. But the core team will remain the same, just rebranded as McLaren FE team. But a lot to look forward to, in the sense that the number of manufacturers are going down for the next season, which means there will be more customer teams, and I don't want to say an even field spread, because a lot is changing, in terms of the technical regulations next season. But we saw a shift in the last couple of races in Seoul, which was almost uncharacteristic of the rest of the season. And the reason I bring that up is because of what Oliver Rowland did in the very first race. And that was very surprising.
Yeah, I missed it.
Oliver Rowland got pole, and then he finished on the pole.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
I mean, you said what Oliver Rowland did was surprising, and I was like, okay, what? I mean, for Oliver Rowland, I always look for his attacking moves in the race. But yeah, pole and on finishing on the podium. That's true.
I think the pole was more surprising than
Yeah,
anything else. No
absolutely.
one was expecting a Mahindra to be on
But
pole.
but then again, it
But
was
yeah,
mixed conditions sort of.
yeah,
So and we saw Alexander Sims get to the front row in mixed conditions in, I think, was it New York or somewhere, but his front row
yeah.
came in sort of mixed conditions.
Regardless, it was a great weekend. But let's talk about you know some of the other teams that will be leaving us. We have to talk about the changes that will be happening going into the next season. But before all of that, we'll be losing a few drivers, like you said. Alexander Sims, will be losing him at the end of the season. I think everybody loved him in the paddock. He's a great figure, but obviously did not get along with Formula E racing over the last few years. There's a couple people moving around, but what a signing for Mahindra again, in Lucas de Grassi.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What a signing in Lucas de Grassi for Mahindra, and I am excited to see him in the Mahindra car next season more than anything else. I don't even I care less about how the car is going to perform, and I care more about how Lucas de Grassi is going to perform in that car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to get the as I call him, the first ever Formula E driver, the first ever electric racer. Like Lucas de Grassi was with Formula E, was with Alejandro Agag since literally day one, right? He was the first driver they contacted to test drive the cars and to hear out the vision and everything. So to get Lucas de Grassi in Mahindra, to get a champion, to get a proven leader. I think he has the most number of wins in Formula E as well. So
Most number of points, first to reach
yeah,
a
first to
thousand
reach
points.
1,000 points. So to get that,
He's been posting about it. He's been posting about it
yeah,
himself all over social media for the last week.
to get a man like that in a team like Mahindra, who really need an upliftment and a resurgence, sort of, is great. It's kind of like when a midfield team in Formula One signs an Alonso or a Seb Vettel, right? But it's a great move and it's a great opportunity for Mahindra to gain from Degrassi's champion mentality, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously we can't predict much about the driver market and what's going to happen going into the next season, just because there's so much going around the Formula E world right now. It's very volatile, if you want to put it that way. We have ABT coming in, whom Mahindra will be supplying. We have Maserati coming in, supplied by Diaz, and a lot is going on. There will be new. Some of the customers will look at other manufacturers because BMW and Porsche, BMW and Audi powertrains will not be there anymore. And I think it was also Antonio Giovinazzi's last season. I don't think he's coming back next season. So a lot is going on, and it's very hard to put a finger down on what's going to happen at the end of the day. What's going to be the state of play when the dust settles, which is why I don't even want to get into the conversation of the silly
Yeah.
season and manufacturers and all of that. And I just want to look forward and look back to the things that have happened over the course of the season. And one question I want to ask you, Vedant, is: do you think Stoffel Vandoorne's championship is more deserved than anyone else's who came before him because of the qualifying format, or less so?
That's a very interesting point you bring up, and obviously, the qualifying format was a complete overhaul, and we saw sort of, basically the top brass staying in the top and the bottom brass not getting into the top 10 at all. And I was doing a little bit of research on my end, and I was doing a little bit of, uh, I was trying to make graphics out of the championship, out of the duels and everything. I'm still in that process, but I think the number of the number of times the leaders in the championship and the front midfielders in the championship have gotten into the duels has
Duels.
been incredible. So definitely it helps the credibility, like it helps the domination of the championship. But if you think about it, a Jean-Eric won winning the championship twice when the grids was set basically randomly. I believe that is a more, like he probably would had to fight more from P10,
That is a
P12,
harder championship to win
and
than what
right.
Stoffel had to do.
And I think
I mean, I'm not
yeah,
trying to take away
absolutely.
from
But
Stoffel's,
Stoffel's
world championship at all,
out,
but it's just a
out
question,
of
like a practical question
yeah,
that we need to
exactly,
ask.
out of 16 race starts, Stoffel Van Dorn probably had 8 at least in the top 8. And when you talk about Jeff, like I don't think he had 50% race starts in the top half of the grid, sort of, right?
I mean, even not just that, it's also about the way you go qualifying, right? You don't even have to look back to the first season. You just look
Last
back to the
season, yeah.
last season, and if you're leading the championship, which means you won't be, you won't have a good qualifying spot for the next race, and the chances of you qualifying are lesser and lesser.
I
Um,
mean,
in the
yeah, as
next
you said, we
race.
can compare it to last season, and no better comparison because it was Stoffel's own teammate, uh, Nick De
Yeah.
Vries, right? And what I noticed last season was, like, obviously Nick was in the front running of the championship and he qualified sort of in the midfield, but Nick always made up a few places to get in those extra points and to stay in the championship hunt. And you remember when it was the penultimate race, I think he won the penultimate race or something like that, and he had to start the last race quite
Oh
behind.
yeah, and we made a joke of the fact that whoever's leading, whoever's at the top after a certain round, the next round they
Yeah,
always fall back,
exactly.
and we were like, oh,
And
Nick
I
DeVries is
mean,
not gonna
Nick had a
win.
bit of luck with Mitch Evans suffering the issues, and
Everyone's
everyone's suffering,
suffering.
right? But then again, he in the penultimate race, he started in the final race. Sorry, he started. I don't know, but maybe behind P7, P8, and Stoffel started P4. So I think that was the
Yeah, no,
sort of difference we are talking about, right?
definitely, and it also shows in like the total points they scored across the season. I think someone put the stat out there on Twitter after Stoffel won the world championship on Sunday, and it was like Nick de Vries had 20 some percent of total points available at the end of last year's season, whereas Stoffel had 40 something points
Yeah, there
available
you
to
go.
him at the end
There
of the
you go.
season. 40% of all points available to him at the end of the season, which just goes to show the advantage that Stoffel had in terms of being able to qualify where he could, instead of getting caught out by changing conditions or
Yeah,
whatnot.
and I mean,
So
after after New York, we had 4 championship contenders on paper, right? And there were properly only 4 championship contenders. I mean to say, and after what? After London, there were only 2 championship contenders. But when you look at previous seasons, there have been multiple championship contenders till the last round of the season, and 4 or 5
yeah,
people
absolutely.
have the ability to win the championship till the last lap of the race. Absolutely.
That being said, we've had a whole season of the dual format in qualifying now. Do you think it makes the spectacle much better of racing in Formula E?
I absolutely do. And I think the spectacle itself, as a spectator at home watching on the TV, I think it's brilliant. Obviously, I don't have any experience watching it at track like you do, but I mean it's a head to head. You never have a head to head in motorsports other than drag racing, basically, right? So a
Yeah,
head to head
yeah.
is always exciting. It's always, as Will Buxton calls it, the jeopardy is high, right? But I was, as I said, I was doing some like studying into the duels, and you always get surprised when someone from nowhere walks into the duels, right? Walks in the top 8, be it
Yeah,
Sergio Sette
yeah.
Camara, be it Antonio Giovinazzi, uh,
Giovinazzi,
Oliver
Oliver
Askew,
Askew.
Roland. in any of those. So it's always
Yeah.
surprising. And Giovinazzi got till P2, I guess. Front row. Sims
Yeah, I
had a
think
front
so.
row
Yeah.
start. Roland had a pole. Yeah, so
Pole.
absolutely. Those are the moments that make it more brilliant for me.
Yeah, I know it definitely, and it also makes more sense. When you're watching racing, there has to be. We always talk about how motorsport is one of the most unfairest of sports when it comes to giving advantage to the
Yeah,
best person. Usually all sports, especially racing of any sort, puts you on equal footing when you start the race, and then you gain an advantage based on your
yeah,
own skill
yeah,
and whatnot. Whereas in motorsport, if you qualify well, you get an advantage. Uh, but but it's a great balance between still having a spectacle different from other sports, which is what
yeah,
Formula E wanted when they came up with that format, while adding that aspect of fairness, which was lacking a bit. Not just for the teams and the drivers, but also for fans. It did seem a little bit redundant, a little bit too gamey in a way for the grid to be set the way it was last all seasons prior to this one. But I think it's a great change that they have made. Um, Now let's look forward a little bit, right? Obviously, we're excited that Formula E is going to India next year. Hopefully, they'll get a good crowd. Hopefully, they'll not make the same mistakes that the promoters in New York did, which is to have just one
yeah,
grandstand. Because it does seem there is a good appetite for motorsport in India at this moment, especially since that series will basically Formula E visiting India will basically, I think, be foreshadowing the Indian F4 and the Indian Formula 3 season,
yeah,
if I'm not
yeah.
wrong.
It's around the same time, and
So
absolutely in Formula E coming to India, it's in the Hyderabad. So all the motorsport crazy fans of the traditional motorsport crazy fans, basically of Chennai and Tamil Nadu and Kerala, are all there in close proximity. So that would be great. And
yeah, it's definitely a good destination because it is definitely
in the
more
south,
popular in the
exactly.
south, like we know, rather than towards the capital. But a lot of things to look forward to, and but I think the next season, since Mercedes is going away, Mercedes has been the thorn in the side of DS Techeetah and Jaguar over the
Yeah,
last two
yeah,
seasons. Let's be honest, right? Uh, After the 2020 season when Da Costa won, it's been Mercedes and Jaguar who've really battled it out with them, but haven't come across as winners. And I think it is a great opportunity for them to capitalize on what is to come. And I will be disappointed if Jaguar is unable to capitalize after everything they've done in Gen 2. And I think it is because I think they're the only team who have not won, and they've been a part of Formula E and stalwarts of Formula E supporters for the longest time.
yeah, absolutely. But if you remember, Jaguar, like we were all ready for Jaguar to dominate this season as well at the start. But Jaguar had a horrible
Yep.
start and horrible first 3-4 races, first 3 weekends basically of the season, which essentially put Mitch Evans in the situation he was, right? So while Jaguar are a class leading outfit in Formula E, they have made similar mistakes in the past, and with it being a new set of regulations, who knows? It can be the same, uh, you know, pecking order. It can change around very quickly, and maybe someone, anyone else can take the place, whatever. So, but yeah, but
Yep.
Jaguar will be in the top half probably, along with DS and along with
Yeah, but
yeah,
I mean, all of that is good, talking about who's going to be up ahead and whatnot next season. But I don't know if you've read, but there have been quite a few issues with the new gen cars, especially with the teams adapting to the new powertrain and whatnot that has come with it. And there have been two big crashes. I think the race reported on it a few weeks ago before the season finale. And it'll be interesting to see how easy it is for the teams to adapt, and whether the safety issues with the car will force Formula E to delay its season, even if that's by just a few weeks. if whether Formula E will be forced into such a position, and I wonder what they'll do then, because it as we've seen during COVID, right? It's not easy to just delay or postpone things, and just host an event on a different weekend or host an event on a different day at a city center. So I think there are a lot of hurdles. Obviously, there will be a lot of postseason testing going on between now and the start of the next season. But there's a long road ahead for all the teams and Formula E, not just with the car, not just with the technical side of the car, but also with the tire manufacturer. They have a new tire manufacturer coming in, and I don't have to tell you, for anyone who's followed motorsport in the past, we all know how things went down with Pirelli, how things went down with Bridgestone and whatnot in Formula One. So it's Hankook, right? Who will be supplying tires for the 2023 season. So the tires will also have to undergo, extensive testing with the cars, and obviously, Formula E said, that this is going to be a big change going into Gen 3, but didn't commit to the full scope of the changes, which is why we were already looking forward to Gen 4. But even the changes in Gen 3, because there's so many changes happening simultaneously, it seems like a very volatile time, and it could make or break Formula E, in my opinion at least. And when I say make or break, not just for the fans, but also as an organization to keep everyone happy and everyone together.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how unsure you are about Formula E going into the future, right? But I think given the fact that Formula E have a new calendar slot, like the earlier calendar slot was from October, November, and going into March, April until June, right? But due to COVID, they had to postpone it, and now they have actually adopted that new calendar slot, which is from January till July and August. But I think that gives them a greater window to test and develop the cars, the tires, and make it absolutely perfect, because it's a long time. It's a long time, and they have had issues, but the car has been in development for a while, and from August till again January, whenever they have the preseason test, I think it might be in December, but from August till December is a great deal of time to get those things right.
All right, here's another question for you regarding the calendar, right? In your opinion, so Formula E earlier had that 2-year calendar where they would start the season this year, and they would carry it on late this year, and then carry it on early into next year, and that was so that they could race in times, basically offset the calendar to all other major motorsport series across the world, whether that is endurance championship or whatnot, right? Formula One, endurance championship, whatnot. Do you think that is more conducive to the market growth for Formula E, or do you think Formula E should it will be more conducive for Formula E to race on the same weekends as Formula One or during the same calendar time?
I think Formula E, I think we had an issue similar to this weekend. I think this season. I think it was London, and Formula.
But that was the only issue. Usually the Formula E races are if they're on the same weekend.
Slightly earlier.
They're
right,
usually an hour or two before.
But I think, see, so from where I sit, Formula E does not want to, obviously the target audience is the same, and if they clash timings, then people will watch either or the other, right?
See, I'm not saying clash timing. I'm saying you can have an offset timing, right? But do it on the same days, or don't offset your entire calendar to the F1 calendar or the calendar. Which one do you think will be more conducive for Formula E's growth?
No, I really like that Formula E are going forward with this plan that they will stick around when the other championships are going on, right? Because it makes sure that they are in presence, they are in the limelight along with all these, and basically so from what I think is, if Formula E is racing from November to March and November to April, they are sort of taking a back step to attract more drivers, attract more teams basically, and just say that, okay, like Sebastian Buemi, he races from Nissan in these months, and then he'll race for Toyota in those months, right? But now that Formula E is sticking to this calendar, where WEC and Formula One and IndyCar, all these championships will go hand in hand. It makes the decision for drivers interesting, and it allows more talent to rise up in the ranks in motorsport, and it puts Formula E right along with those world class championships from all those years. If Formula E races in November, it is sort of a senior winter series, I would say.
For me as a fan, it's not even that complicated. Like I'm talking about from a fan's perspective. If I as a fan need to tune in, during the off season for motorsport, Formula E is just not enough of a reason for me to get up in the morning
Yeah.
and watch just Formula E.
Yeah.
It's just not. Let's put it that way. It's not enough of a reason for me to cancel plans and take out an hour from my day to watch Formula E. I will follow it, but
Yeah.
I might not, take out the time to watch it. It's just not enough of a reason. But if if I can watch Formula E by just tuning in an hour before a Formula One race, I will do it. It's the same reason I wake up in the morning and tune into a MotoGP race separately, rather than just tuning into a Formula
Yeah.
One race, because on those weekends I can just get up and just have the races running in the background while I'm doing whatever that I need to do in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have to separately plan for it, and I think sorry, and I think if Formula E took advantage of that to just put more eyeballs on the sport, not even to grow their market or whatever, just to put more eyeballs so that people can see what they're doing. I think that would be very helpful for them, instead of trying to offset the calendar. I understand why, because it's hard for them to attract drivers, at least
When they
when they
yeah.
started doing all of this. But now that is not the case. Now there are drivers who will happily spend a few seasons in Formula E and just continue racing. But yeah, I think just from a fan's perspective, I would rather have Formula E an hour before Formula One, because let's be honest, the pre-race show does not
Yeah.
matter in Formula One. It's the same grid walk. I mean, Martin Brundle does a fantastic job, but let's be honest. I'm not tuning into the pre-race show. Half the world does not even get the pre-race show on the TV.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's be honest about that. So if there's a MotoGP race, I'll tune into that. If there's a Formula E race, I'll tune into that. Or maybe but I don't. But and even after, maybe even after the Formula One race, because half the world does not see the post-race
Yep.
show either on their TVs. It's not on the usual broadcast. So as a fan, there is a higher probability for me to tune into a Formula E race on the same calendar time or the same calendar weekends as other motorsport series, than on a separate set of weekends altogether. But people might disagree with that. But however, that is
Yeah,
my
no, I mean, I
perspective.
agree with you, and I mean, it's a simple, as you put it, it's very difficult to take out time. And since Formula E has multiple sessions on the same day, you have to take out 1 hour here, and then another hour for qualifying, and then another hour and a half for the race and whatnot, right? And if you have it with a Formula One weekend or a MotoGP weekend, and if in an ideal world, if all the motorsport series get together and make the schedules together, right? So you can have a Formula E qualifying, and then you can have a Formula One qualifying, and then you can have a Formula One race or Formula E race or whatever. But yeah, that would be easier to watch, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, even now it's not that bad. If you think about it, most MotoGP races start an hour before the Formula One race. They have a lot of weekends
Yeah.
that clash, and usually you can get up in the morning, tune into the MotoGP race, and by the time the F1 race comes around, you are ready to
Yeah.
watch the F1 race, because that is the main event
Yeah.
in your day for the most part, for most people, at least the people that we talk to. And then similarly with, I think, IndyCar, the closer it is to an F1 race, the more likely it is that I'll watch it than if it's later in the day. But obviously IndyCar is, catering to a completely different audience compared to F1, MotoGP, Formula E. So that's not in the same conversation. But it it does make
It does
sense.
make
It does
sense.
make sense.
Absolutely.
It's not like it does not make sense. But regardless. That's all from my side. Vedant, obviously, congratulations to Stoffel Van Dorn once again. Not that he'll be listening to us, but it's always great to see Stoff win. And I wonder if there's an army talking about getting Stoff back into F1.
Yeah, I don't know
Maybe.
about that, but I mean, he's already signed for Nissan, right? Or for DS.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
DS,
yeah.
for DS. For
But I
yeah.
mean, even Alex Albon signed,
Yeah.
but he's back in F1.
Yeah,
So
that's
clearly,
true.
F1
F1 has a
F1
bigger
is
pull, but yeah, I don't see a defending champion leaving his throne. Alex Albon had just joined Formula E and had just had a couple of races, if I'm not wrong, right? So yeah, I don't see that happening. But of course, Stoffel Van Dorn finally winning that championship he has so deserved for the last 3 seasons. And yeah, great show. Great. I mean, obviously hard luck for Mitch Evans last season as well and this season as well. But I think, in my opinion, he is the top performing driver in Formula E at the moment. Stoffel may have won the championship, but Mitch Evans won 4 races. Even Edo Mortara. I believe even Mitch Evans and Edo Mortara will be the title contenders next season, however the cars shape up to be.
I mean, yeah, given Nissan's history, you don't have a lot of expectations from them.
No, but in terms of form, along with Stoffel, Mitch Evans and Edo Mortara have been the standout performers for the last couple of seasons, and it's a great rivalry building up among these three, and maybe Nick DeVries or whatever. But the old guard is old guard is sort of fading away, and these are the new drivers. Take Jake Dennis into this equation as well.
Yeah, I would like to see Jake Dennis in a consistently
Yeah.
fast car. I think he has the capability to do what Jeff did, which is win
Yeah.
more than one world championship
Yeah.
in a row, just with the speed that he shows. But that's all from my side. Without anything else that you want to talk about before we close
No,
this
I'm
out?
just waiting for the new cars, the new Formula E cars to hit the track properly. And
Are you
I mean,
really?
see, we have to accept the fact that it will happen,
I'm just
right?
kidding.
Right?
I'm just kidding. I'm
No,
just
but
kidding.
the faster they hit the track, the faster we'll get accustomed to them. I'm just hoping for that.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. That is true. But yeah, thank you, Vedant, for joining me once again. And honestly, I am looking forward to the chaos that is Formula E over the next 6
Absolutely.
months. I am
Absolutely.
sure there will be enough to talk about, and we'll keep popping up some Formula E podcasts every now and then, just for shits and giggles. But yeah, thank you once again, Vedant, and as always, we'll catch you very soon. Very soon.